Yo, what's going on everyone? Thank you for joining me on another YouTube video, and in today's video we're going to be doing a review and analysis of the chapter 336 titled Villain for My Hero Academia. So if you guys are excited for this new chapter, let me know down in the comment section below, as well as leave a like on the video and let me know what you guys thought of the chapter. But without too much introduction, guys, just go ahead and jump into this review. Starting off this chapter, we immediately begin with a panel of all of Class 1A students sparring with one another, as well as Bakugo and Midoriya sparring with each other as well. It is here that Bakugo is showing Midoriya his new technique that he learned called Cluster. We learned about Cluster last chapter as Bakugo told everyone how he had been developing it ever since his Endeavor work study. After concluding their sparring session, Bakugo tells Midoriya that he has now gotten the consistency down for Cluster. He then elaborates on the technique by telling Midoriya by creating sweat spheres, he can fire off multiple shots at a time, as well as making a solid declaration to Midoriya telling them that from here on out all my moves are gonna get even stronger. After Bakugo and Midoriya are done exchanging on how his new Cluster ability works, Midoriya states out that Todoroki too has given a completely different vibe off than before. Here we see Todoroki both cultivating his left and right side, stating that his control over his left side should be caught up with his right side now. With this, he explains that this is necessary in order to not get burned by Dabi's flames. Todoroki also explains that having to make both his left and right side equal halves into one is paramount in order for his fight against Dabi. After both Bakugo and Todoroki give brief summaries on how they've improved their quirks, we then move on to a conversation being held between Kaminari and Mineta. In this conversation, Kaminari and Mineta both go over all the things that have happened and transpired since the Jaku Hospital and Gunju Mountain incident, explaining how Gigantomachia is still sedated, as well as stating, won't this work out if we find All for One? Bakugo interrupts their conversation by stating you're short by 3 points, as well as telling them they probably will not find All for One. Bakugo further explains to them that despite them having found the Nomu Laboratory, Shigaraki's hideout, as well as the research facility, they were never able to find All for One's location after his Tataris escape, as well as Bakugo making a lewd joke about All for One's face, calling him a ball-sacked freak. Jiro hilariously retorting back to Bakugo, telling him not to make vulgar jokes. Yaoyorozu continues by explaining that how in the previous battle Shigaraki was incomplete, as well as stating, from our side we've lost a lot of heroes as well. So if anything, the chances of our winning is still 50-50. Bakugo concludes these points by stating that the villains will be the ones that decide when the battle starts, telling his classmates that even if the search court were to be destroyed by Shigaraki from the American forces, they would still be on the back foot. It is then that Midoriya chips in by telling everyone that they have to at least influence their actions, then voluntarily telling everyone how he wants to go out for recon. Ida then sneaks up on Midoriya, reminding him that I, not we, as in a class effort, not just a Midoriya effort. Midoriya feeling confused about whether to go outside of the school, Sue tells everybody how morale seems to be elevated after Uraraka's speech. Kaminari then states that no matter how much we force them into a corner, All for One is still out there laughing at us somewhere. It is now that we move away from the events of all of Class 1A at UA High into the forest with Hagakure. In this panel, Hagakure seems to be shaken by something, even saying how he lost his entire jovial demeanor, as well as explaining despite this, everyone else was the same too. We then get back and forth dialogue between characters we cannot see in the panel outstretching the forest. As Hagakure enters into the forest even more, she hears distant voices arguing as well as trying to comfort someone. It is then that we get a panel of Aoyama crying hysterically. It is at this moment that us manga readers are completely vindicated in our suspicions of Hagakure being completely wiped, as we see a hysterically crying Aoyama almost 100% confirming he is the traitor. Continuing the chapter, we see Aoyama's mother and father trying to console Aoyama as he is crying desperately. In doing this, they explain as how they had no other choice but to work for All for One, as well as explaining how Aoyama both leaked info on the training camp incident as well as the USJ incident as well. Continuing on, we get a little bit of backstory on Aoyama, as well as his mother stating we wanted nothing else other than your happiness. It is then that we now realize that Aoyama was indeed born without a quirk. With this newly found information, we then continue on with his backstory, with his mom asking him, "Yuga, do you want to be like everyone else?" Aoyama agreeing, saying yes, because being different is really scary. They then explain how their actions with All for One all stemmed from them wanting to give Aoyama a quirk in order to fit in with his peers and classmates. But in doing so, they are forever wrapped up into All for One, stating that we are already under his influence, and once you have anything to do with All for One, there's no escaping him. Upon hearing all of this information between Aoyama as well as his parents, Hagakure states someone needs to tell the teachers. In this moment of confession, Aoyama tells how everything was so painful to watch, and when All for One was captured at Kamino, he mistakenly thought that this would be his chance that he could be like everyone else. Aoyama's parents then beg for Aoyama's forgiveness, seeing as he just wanted to make his mama and papa proud. Aoyama's mother tries to ask Aoyama to please save them before Midoriya in the distance seems to have entered the forest. Midoriya, with a heartbroken expression on his face, comes to realize that Hagakure has found the traitor. Hagakure had deliberately called Midoriya into the forest, stating as how she believes she knew who the traitor was. Having suspected Aoyama all along, Hagakure had collaborated with Midoriya to come to the forest to finally see for himself what Aoyama was. With Aoyama's mother and father trying to convince Midoriya that he misheard what they said, Aoyama confronts into Midoriya one last time that he is indeed the traitor, with a final image of Midoriya and Aoyama looking at each other, with Aoyama stating to Midoriya that he has helped them as well as he is a scumbag. And alright guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap things up for chapter 336 of My Hero, titled Villains. So what did I think of the chapter? Personally, I really liked the chapter. I like how Horikoshi threw a curveball at us, and how the traitor wasn't Invisible Girl. I feel as though Aoyama being the traitor made a little bit more sense, seeing as how we could have traced him all the way back to when he was suspecting of Midoriya. Now, what I personally feel as though, Aoyama sort of knew back then that Midoriya was quirkless, because in the chapter we found out that Aoyama was born without a quirk and was only given a quirk through All for One. So perhaps Aoyama already had suspicions of Midoriya not having a quirk and being given a quirk, as he was given the quirk from All Might. Definitely could play a role into next week's chapter. We will have to see, but overall guys, my rating of this chapter was a 9.5. Absolutely fantastic chapter. I'm already wanting to know what happens next. I can't wait another 7 days to know what happens. So alright guys, that's going to go ahead and end my review of chapter 336. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Let me know what you guys are thinking about next chapter. And I will be back with you guys with another manga review. I will be reviewing the most recent chapters of Black Clover when that drops, as well as Jujutsu Kaisen. So with that guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you guys soon. See ya!